Hey, I'm Jusko from ProudMoney.com. Are Yotta customers ever going to see their money again? That's what we are going to talk about in this video. So it has been a rough couple of months for customers of Yotta, which is a online savings account financial technology startup, essentially offering savings accounts with some sort of interesting bells and whistles. Now, what has happened, according to various reports, is that since around mid-May, somewhere close to 100,000 Yotta customers that open these savings accounts with Yotta have been locked out of their accounts and have no access to their money. Now, the problem with Yotta, like a lot of financial technology startups, is that they themselves are not a bank. So they have to partner either directly with banks or with other companies that partner with banks in order to actually hold the money that you put into your account. So in Yotta's case, their relationship was not directly with a bank, but was instead with a middleman company called Synapse. And Synapse would take the money from Yotta, or Yotta's customers technically, and then they would end up depositing it with one of their partner banks. So when you as a customer of Yotta deposited money with them, you were actually depositing money that was going to Synapse and then was going into another bank that Synapse worked with. For the most part, this was Evolve Bank and Trust. Now, for a lot of people, if you were a Yotta customer, you might not have even realized that they were not a bank, and so you assumed everything was good, or whatever was going on behind the scenes was all taken care of. So Yotta and Synapse were keeping track of your money, and you could go in and you could look at your account and see how much money you had in it and all of that good stuff, and you assumed it was all good to go. Well, what happened, unfortunately, is that middleman company Synapse filed for bankruptcy, and as part of their bankruptcy, they tried to sell their remaining assets to another company which was ready to buy them. But what they also did is they essentially turned off the sort of dashboard or spreadsheet or whatever you would want to think of it as that the partner bank, Evolve Bank and Trust in this case, used to sort of reconcile the money that was in the bank with all those different accounts that Synapse was sort of keeping track of, including those Yotta accounts. So all of a sudden, Evolve Bank and Trust had no way to see that information, no way to reconcile their money with what Synapse was saying Yotta customers had, all of that sort of thing. And so they said, well, we're just going to shut down all of the payment cards associated with those Yotta accounts until we can get this figured out. And so that meant Yotta customers could not access their funds. Now, this was mid-May, almost 2 months ago. You might think that as part of sort of a bankruptcy proceeding, there's somebody that would say, hey, Synapse, turn your systems back on so the bank can see and reconcile all this stuff and give everyone who is a Yotta customer their money back. And if there's other companies that Synapse was partnering with, give them their money back as well. Well, that kind of did happen after a certain period of time. But what did also happen is that Synapse did not have the same numbers as Evolve Bank and Trust, and then there's another bank called Lineage Bank involved as well. So the numbers did not reconcile, and unfortunately, the way they did not reconcile is that the bank had about $85 million less in those accounts than Synapse said the customers of Yotta and other potential fintechs actually were owed, or what they actually had in their accounts. So somewhere $85 million kind of went poof. Now, no one's saying that anyone stole any money, but $85 million is a pretty big discrepancy. And so the question is the error on the side of Synapse and Yotta in terms of the accounts that they had been tracking, or was the error with the banks, including Evolve Bank and Trust, but then Lineage Bank was another one sort of involved here as well. And figuring that out, if you are a third party coming in to basically handle the bankruptcy of that middleman, is not the easiest thing to do because you weren't involved in any of it. And so now you're trying to reconcile these books and figure out what happened. And then, of course, what is maddening for Yotta customers is that they were led to believe that their money was insured by the FDIC or the Federal Reserve, and that they could put it in there and everything was good, and Evolve Bank and Trust was on top of it. But what they did not understand so much was that middleman. And so in this case, the money still exists somewhere. Evolve Bank and Trust did not go under, so there's nothing to really say, well, those people have to get their money back because the bank went under and actually actually the money that was deposited by Synapse, not by those individual customers. So they did not have that direct banking relationship. So technically, there's not a bank failure here, and that's generally what is actually insured when you're talking about FDIC insurance or a comparable insurance of that nature. So people thought they were insured, and what's really happening now is you've got a dispute between Synapse and Evolve Bank and Trust, and until that gets worked out, everything is just in limbo. Now, obviously, with an $85 million discrepancy, it is slow work to try to figure it out, and no one knows how it's all going to end up. Evolve Bank and Trust is not saying that there isn't any money, but they're essentially saying we don't have as much money as Synapse said that we have from their customers. So what does that mean to Yotta customers? Are they going to get 50% of their money back, 60%, 70%? Nobody knows for sure. Now, you could, as an individual Yotta customer, sue Yotta, and you could sue Evolve Bank and Trust and sue anybody else involved in things, but most people who were their customers didn't have a lot of money, and the amount of money it would cost to actually sue these companies is probably more than you would actually get back if you got your account back in full. So for most people, they're going to take whatever they can get back and maybe lose some of it in the process. So unfortunately, most of Yotta's customers are pretty powerless right now, and it is just a waiting game. There is a page on Yotta's website where they have been tracking what has been going on with this case, in particular the bankruptcy proceedings that are a big part of all of this. So you can kind of track it there, and there have been some stories in the media and some government officials who are starting to put some pressure on the banks and other players involved here to make sure that people get their money back, but how much power they have to make that happen is somewhat still in question. So right now, things still clear as mud almost 2 months after this whole debacle started. If you have been a Yotta customer, would love to hear from you in those comments below, or if you have any comments, if you're not a Yotta customer, would love to hear from you as well. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews, we talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. If you don't have a comment or you're not going to go to the website, you might want to watch next this video.